Hello and welcome to the premiere of the Safety for All series presented by the San Diego Police Foundation. I'm Sarah Napoli, and for over a decade I have had the pleasure of serving as the president and CEO of the Police Foundation. Although I've had a number of roles in the business, education, and nonprofit sectors, this has by far been the most meaningful and interesting. You'll see exactly what I mean when we get into our program today. The San Diego Police Foundation is a nonprofit with the mission of supporting America's finest police department by cultivating positive community engagement and helping fund vital equipment and specialized training that ensures peace and safety for all. Providing this live streaming session free as a public service would be impossible without our sponsors and donors. Please take a look at all the organizations and individuals listed on screen. Topping this list is our Catalyst sponsor, Qualcomm. I would also like to give a shout out to our education sponsors, Barbie and Dan Spinazzola, Securitas USA San Diego, and VCA Animal Hospitals. Before the pandemic, the San Diego Police Foundation often took community members behind the scenes at the Regional Law Enforcement Training Center through a program called Inside SDPD. Participants often called it eye-opening. With the pandemic, we could no longer do these sessions in person, and yet the need to bridge the gap between police and community grew even greater. By coming together for this session with our local police, we hope to create positive community police engagement. Ultimately, this will create a safer San Diego, something each and every one of us wants. For our series on what local police do and how they do it, it made sense to start at the beginning. Recruitment. Today, we get a glimpse of who will be protecting and serving San Diego in future years, how they're recruited, and why they join. We had over 100 people register for this session. That's too many to talk with you one-on-one on air, but feel free to type your questions into the chat. Towards the end of our program together, we'll answer as many questions as we can. For this session, the premiere of the Safety for All series, I have one more treat for you. San Diego's Chief of Police will be here live on stage, so stay with me. Right now, we're going to meet another SDPD officer who's live in studio with me today. He's my co-host for this session, Sergeant Jason Sue.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here.
Terrific. Sergeant Sue, I know you're originally from Edison, New Jersey, and that you took your Bachelor's of Criminal Justice at Rutgers University. And you've been at SDPD now 13 years. Walk us through your career and tell us what you're doing now.
Sure. I started my career with San Diego PD in 2008. I spent the vast majority of my career on patrol. I've worked various assignments as a patrol officer. I've worked Southern Division, then Western Division. I was a field training officer as well as a SWAT officer. In 2016, I promoted to sergeant, where I transferred down to Southern Division again and back to Northern Division for 3 years, where I was a FTO sergeant and a SWAT sergeant as well. And in December of 2020, I transferred over to the recruiting unit, where I currently serve as our recruiting sergeant.
Thank you. And let's go back in time. What inspired you to be a police officer?
Well, as a teenager back in New Jersey, I had a childhood friend whose father was a police officer. I remember going over their house many times and listening to stories of him when he comes home from work, and I just realized how exciting and rewarding it would be to be a police officer.
What do you like best about your job?
Well, honestly, what I like best is being able to mentor other officers. So even as a police officer, as a patrol officer, I was a field training officer as well as a SWAT officer. So my goal was to make other officers more proficient or even safer in the field. So I just felt like I really engaged in officers really well that way. And even as a sergeant, I was able to help other officers become SWAT officers or help them promote, whether it's to detective or sergeant as well. And fast forward to currently, I'm part of the recruiting unit, so now I get to help mentor other recruits prior to going to the academy. So I think it's a lot of mentoring and helping others is what I'm passionate about.
And what aspect of your job do you find most challenging?
So most challenging, I would say it's balancing work and personal life. I stress that to other officers as well, but it's something that I have to work on a lot. So for example, as a supervisor, my number is available 24/7. And I tell them, and I mean it, to call me, text me, or if I need to be in person at any time, any day, I'm willing to do that. So I find myself, at home or on my personal time, sometimes helping or relating to others even on my own time. So I think that's kind of the biggest challenge.
24/7. In a few moments, we're going to do a virtual tour of the recruitment process. While we're doing that, be sure to watch for two new recruits, Brittany and Ralston. Before applying to SDPD, she was an EMT and he was a teacher serving special needs students. These two are typical of new recruits in their dedication, intelligence, and fitness, but there is something rare and interesting about them. They are a brother and sister going through the police academy together. Watch for them in the video. Also in this video, you will see footage from the Regional Law Enforcement Training Academy. You'll notice vehicles and uniforms from other agencies besides SDPD. Jason, why is that?
So the reason why that is because it's a regional academy. So up to 16 agencies in San Diego County send their recruits to our academy.
I get it. Now we're going to go inside SDPD's recruitment unit with Lieutenant Steve Waldheim, who heads the backgrounds area of recruiting at SDPD. He's an amazing officer who knows tons about the application process, and he's also Sergeant Sue's boss. Are you ready to find out what applicants have to do when they want to join SDPD? Here we go.
The San Diego Police Department is always looking for great candidates that want to join America's finest. People that want to better their community, people that are hardworking, open, and honest. It's also about your character, your good morals, and you have the integrity to become a police officer. It's always important for our police department to be reflective of the community we serve. So this has been a directive and a goal for our mayor, city council, and police chief from day one. We want to ensure that our police department comprises of a diverse group, again, that's similar to the community that we serve to better all the citizens for San Diego. In terms of recruiting, our target audience is generally 21 to 35 because the average age within our academy is 27. However, that's not the limitations. We can certainly hire anybody over than 35, and we certainly have. We have a lot of experienced people that are coming into this job in their 30s and their 40s, and they've done very well with the police department. We have a team of recruiters that consistently go out and try and talk with the community. Obviously now due to COVID, those events have been limited, so we are focused in on right now on social media. We're doing career fairs virtually. We're doing a lot of events that highlight what's within the San Diego Police Department, such as our homicide, our canine, anything that can give some insight as to what the opportunities are available for you within the San Diego Police Department. So anybody that applies within the San Diego Police Department is deemed a viable candidate. What they would do is they start out taking a written test. If they have a 4-year degree from an accredited university, they get that written test waived. Then they go through a physical abilities test. Again, this is the course that simulates a foot pursuit, and we're going to test your physical fitness level. If they're successful upon that, then they fill out what's called a PIQ, a pre-investigative questionnaire. This is something that's 330 questions that we're going to ask a lot of things about you, because we do have to meet standards that are set by post and department guidelines that we have to adhere by. If you are deemed you are viable, you get assigned to a background investigator. Then the next step in the process is a background interview with a background detective. They'll ask for more information, we'll send out references, you go through a polygraph examination. Following that, if everything is successful, you'll do a hiring authority interview. Following that, you'll have a psychological examination and a medical examination. If all goes well, then you will be set to stage in one of the future academies. We do hold what's called our PAT practice twice a week, so that's for our physical abilities test. Also, what we're now starting is camp program. We run this 4 times a week. We go over close order drill, we go over radio codes, we go over the physical aspect of push-ups, running, training, anything that we can do in exercising that is similar to what the academy does to try and set our candidates up for success and have them be successful within the academy. We do a survey to all of the people that we've hired at our orientation on day 1, right before the academy, and ask them, hey, why did you choose San Diego Police Department? And consistently across the board, we constantly get people that said they chose the San Diego Police Department because they applied to multiple agencies, and we were the only agency to seem to care. We care in that we want them to be successful, and that goes true all the way from the onset of when you have your initial contact with the recruiter, all the way to your background investigator, all the way through the academy, your field training, and then when you get assigned to a squad and you're working out in a patrol division. We came up with the brand name and the slogan, one team, one mission, and the whole meaning behind that is that we're all a team. We're all one team unified to help better the community. Very rarely do we actually have a brother and sister team that come in, and both were very athletic, very personable. They had great character traits. So what we did was we proactively reached out to them and we invited them to our camp. We said, hey, why don't you take a look at what the San Diego Police Department has to offer you? And so both Comptons did that. They showed up and they started attending our camp on a regular basis. After that, they were hooked. They went through the completed test, they passed everything, and now they're doing very well within the academy.
I remember the first time I was here, I was just blown away by the professionalism and the organization. This is when we met a lot of the recruiting staff.
Yes.
And even though at that point we had already applied, I knew that this was exactly where I needed to be. It was a great decision.
If you're interested in law enforcement becoming a San Diego police officer, reach out to one of us. Reach out to a recruiter and find out exactly what you need to do or what it entails, what the job is about, what maybe you need to do. Maybe you're not ready right now. Maybe you're thinking about doing it 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road. Let us help try and give you that guidance or what we're looking for, or what you can do to help be a better candidate and more viable for the police department. And we'll give you those tools and essentially set you up for success.
I want to cry, 1, 2, 5, hoorah!
Wow, even before I knew much about police work, I certainly realized recruitment was not a haphazard process, but I had no idea how extensive and intentional it is. In fact, going through the application process must be intense. Jason, how did you feel when you were accepted to the police academy?
Honestly, it was a mix of emotions. Of course, I was excited that I was about to embark on a career that I dreamed of being part of, but also a little bit nervous and anxious because I was moving from the East Coast out to San Diego. So, I was moving 3,000 miles away from all my friends and family, but, entering the academy with 100 other academy mates, I soon made very close friends and they became my support group.
Wow. I heard Lieutenant Waldheim mention POST, which stands for Peace Officers Standards Training. What is that?
Well, California has very high standards for what makes a police officer in our state. So POST sets the minimum requirements in order to maintain that status. So actually our academy, we exceed that even by 50% in those hours, whether it's education, training, and whatnot.
I also heard Lieutenant Waldheim say that you aim to recruit a diverse workforce, one that reflects the community. How exactly do you go about doing that?
Well, actually before the pandemic, what we do is we actually proactively seek out events throughout our community. We're looking for events such as neighborhood fairs, cultural festivals, whether they're for holidays, parades, marathons. We're just going out there. We know our city is very diverse, so we're just going out there and try to recruit wherever there's an appropriate place for us. It's something that if someone is willing to listen and for the opportunity to become a San Diego police officer, we're willing to go there. We even go out of state. We've been to Arizona, Nevada, New York, Hawaii, Texas, just to name a few states. Even a couple years ago, we traveled to Florida to do a recruiting event at Florida A&M, which is a historical Black college and university. Of course, now with the pandemic, things are a little bit more challenging. We can't do any in-person events or travel right now. But even a couple weeks ago, we did a Zoom career fair with Wiley College, another HBCU in Texas.
Impressive. Let's see if the audience can guess the answer to this. Of the most recent academy of 50 recruits, how many or what percentage do you think were fluent in more than one language? You'll look on your screen and you can pick your answer: 0%, 5%, 11%, 19%, 41%. What's your guess?
Actually, the answer is 19 out of 50. So just about 40% of our recruits in the last academy speak another language fluently. Some of those languages include Mandarin, Korean, Spanish, and French. And actually, collectively, our agency, we have officers that speak over 20 languages. So you can see how important that is. Because when citizens call the police, typically, emotions are really high and they need help. So if English is not their fluent language or they don't feel comfortable speaking in English, if we have an officer that can build a rapport with them, speak in their native language, I just think that, kind of de-escalates the situation, builds that rapport, and we're able to communicate better.
I'm glad to hear that. When we get to our session on training in our Safety for All series, we'll go inside SDPD to see how you hone those skills and that ability to relate to people. So audience, be sure to join us for that session on April 28th. Besides an ability to relate to people, what other characteristics and qualifications make for an ideal recruit?
Just off the top of my head, someone's got to be honest, trustworthy, responsible, mature, the ability to make sound decisions under pressure and stress. Again, those are just some of the traits that just came off the top of my head.
Thank you for that. Maybe you in the audience have your own questions. Please feel free to type them into the chat. And remember, Chief Nislight will be with us after the next video tour inside SDPD, so stay with us. By the way, our own Sergeant Sue has a cameo in the upcoming video. See if you can spot him. Now it's time to check in with that brother-sister duo and see the recruitment process through their eyes. Take a look.
I'm Ralston Compton II. I am from Rancho Cucamonga, California in the Inland Empire. I am 25 years old.
I'm Brittany Compton. I'm 30 years old and I'm from Rancho Cucamonga, California. Before joining the academy, I was an EMT at Care Ambulance for 3.5 years.
Before this, I was a special needs teacher in middle school, and I was also a high school football coach. And then now I am in the process of being in the academy with my sister. Growing up, I think we probably had more DTAC training than we should.
We started DTAC before getting to the academy.
Before getting to the academy, brother and sister-wise. But no, as far as competition goes, we're all very competitive. It's a competitive family.
Absolutely. That started a long time ago when we were kids. Yeah. And it could be anything. We could be racing around the house or here for sure when we're running our timed runs, the 3-mile runs, the 1.5s. We're constantly, trying to compete with each other.
Or our little shuttle drill that we did the other day that she claims that she was anywhere close to me. She wasn't. So competitiveness, yes.
Being an EMT was a part of the major reason why I chose to pursue a career in law enforcement. It taught me a lot of valuable skills. I had to learn how to respond and perform under stressful circumstances. I also had to communicate concisely and efficiently on scene because you have to relay a lot of information and you have to be empathetic and compassionate with the people that you're responding to. And I feel like a lot of those skills that I learned were able to transfer over into a career in law enforcement.
As much as I enjoy teaching, I didn't see myself doing it for the next 20, 30 years of my life. I kind of went back to what my high school plan was, and when that was to join law enforcement as soon as I was done with my education. And I brought it up to my sister, and she said she was thinking about doing it straight out of college as well. So it was kind of unique. And so we were actually in a process with a different agency We started I looked around a little bit, and I brought her attention to San Diego PD specifically. And so it kind of sold us. We applied, and once we got here and really seen the atmosphere with our detectives, the background investigators, and then also the people at camp, it just knew it was the right environment for us going forward.
I knew that it was time for me to challenge myself and really take my professional experience to the next level. So I think the timing and the opportunity just presented itself, and we were just really fortunate to be able to be a part of the same class and move through the process as quickly as we did. People, kept saying how lucky we were to be doing this process together. But I don't think it was until we had that first kind of stretch where we were just feeling completely, I don't know, we were drained, yeah.
Tired, stressed.
Didn't know which way was up, and it was just nice to have my brother to lean on, and he knows exactly what I'm going through, and that's amazing. So yeah, I'm definitely starting to see, how lucky we are to be doing this together.
Yes, not too many people have at least, live in the same home, or at least friends before this, to have that resource where you can be like, man, I really had a tough day,
right.
Or I'm not doing too well at this. Can you help me? What do you do?
Oh yeah,
to bounce ideas off each other, and then we have some tests coming up, so studying with one another, quizzing one another. I mean, just having that resource, living in the same apartment as you. I mean, we're very blessed and fortunate to have that going for us. It was an easy decision for me to make personally. I love the fact that every day is going to be different depending on your calls. There's always a new challenge. There's a new problem to solve, somebody to help.
I find law enforcement is multidimensional, and that's something that I value. Having interpersonal communication skills, having situational awareness, building camaraderie with the people that you're working around, being a team player, those are all things that really attracted me to law enforcement. I really want to help people. I think that's the most important thing when you're considering a career in law enforcement, is the ultimate goal, and that's to keep those in your community safe.
Understand what this career takes, what comes with this career, the dangers of this career, and I think it gives you a new perspective, and you understand that really early in the process as a recruit here at the academy, that you never know, any day could be your last, and that's with any profession, but your chances are higher, I guess, with law enforcement. And so just not taking things for granted, it definitely helps you put things into perspective.
If you are fortunate enough to join the academy, remember that the second that you start, you're no longer an individual. Everything is done as a class, as a section, or with the partner, unless you're told otherwise. You do everything as one.
For a new recruit coming in, I would just say PT every day, definitely run, do a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, get your abs right, just get your diet right. They're gonna be talking about that. Our training officers always harp on, taking care of yourself mentally, but also physically, of what you put into your body. So that's something that we can control. Obviously, this environment's gonna be new for everybody coming in, any new recruits. So you're gonna have to do some adapting, but that's law enforcement. So you're gonna have to be willing to adapt and overcome.
I think the last thing I would advise a new recruit to do or kind of remember is to have confidence in yourself. You passed an interview and you were selected for a reason. So, maybe when you're having those times when you're feeling a bit down, or, things just seem to be going in slow motion, you can't figure it out, just remember that you'll get through it. You have a lot of people that have come before you, and they'll get you through.
I noticed a little sibling rivalry among the Comptons. Brittany and Ralston talk about competing against each other in the shuttle drill. Jason, what is the shuttle drill?
So the shuttle drill is very similar to the 3-cone drill at the NFL Combine. It's just 3 cones that are placed on the ground in a L formation. It just tests your ability to move quickly and your agility as well. So in the academy, they had a little competition in physical fitness between their sections.
I see. Brittany mentioned that in her previous role as EMT, she had to use many transferable skills, including empathy for other people. How does a police officer exercise empathy while enforcing the law?
Well, I think an officer needs to balance spirit of the law versus letter of the law. So, sometimes it may not be appropriate for an officer to, pull over and cite every single person who goes 1 or 2 miles an hour over the speed limit, right? I think it just, an officer has to use common sense and, respect, the community that they're serving.
Indeed they do. Ralston talked about how dangerous this occupation is, yet he feels called to it. How do you spot that type of motivation in an applicant?
Well, when a candidate starts with us and ends with us, they're in that process for up to 6 months or maybe even more. When a candidate passes the polygraph test, they're actually invited to camp, something that the lieutenant touched on a little bit earlier. So in camp, we offer that 3 times a week for 2 hours a day, and they're actually out there working with the recruiter. So as the recruiters, not only are we really getting to know each one of these candidates on a personal level, we get to have these conversations with them and see what kind of motivation they have to do this job. Also, they have really involved, they're in constant communication with their background detectives. So our background detectives do a great job in getting to know these candidates, a lot of times much better than their closest friends and family. And lastly, our lieutenant has an interview with them too. So prior to giving them a conditional job offer, you can see that each candidate goes through many levels of, our recruiters, background detective, and our lieutenant.
I have to say what a remarkable combo your police officers have to have. Nerves of steel to face danger, and yet a heart of gold to help people in their worst hour. Nerves of steel, hearts of gold. I certainly admire those qualities. The sergeant has been here answering a bunch of my questions, but I know you may have some questions of your own. We actually have a couple of them here. One audience member asked, Brittany said, the job of law enforcement is multi-dimensional. Why is that?
Well, I just think that the responsibility of an officer could, it range from, handling a critical incident, or maybe we have to find a missing juvenile. If I sat here and spoke to you all day, I don't think we'd go through half of what an officer can go through in their career. And I just think it's important that we're able to do the best job we can in each incident. So I just think that's kind of part of what Brandon was talking about there.
I think so. A few of the audience members asked this. How does camp set the recruits up for success in the academy?
So camp is unique to the San Diego Police Department. It's something that we've developed a few years ago. So in camp, we not only, let me take a step back. So the recruiters, we build a rapport with the training officers in the academy. So we know what the demands are physically that are expected from the recruits. So we pass that on to our trainings at camp with our candidates. Also, we have a former Marine drill instructor as one of our recruiters. So he shows them the basics of the drill movements, and that is something that takes a lot of their stress level from their first day or two. It's something that I wish I had, because I was just a college student with no military background, and that was just an added stress. Not only that, again, with the mentoring, we have a lot of conversations with them. We talk to them about wellness. We talk to them about recovery. Sleep is important. Nutrition is important. Study habits, and it's just a wide gamut of things that we touch on. So I think that's what makes camp so successful.
I think so. We have time for just one more question. So with the pandemic and everything else that's happened this year, how are the recruiting numbers?
The recruiting numbers are still pretty steady. You would think with the pandemic, the numbers would go down, but we're still putting 50 recruits per academy 4 times a year, which is consistent with our numbers for the last several years. It's just that with our recruiting efforts, we just have to be a little bit more creative. It's something I touched on before. We can't be out there in person, so we're just doing a lot more virtual events, and also with social media. I think that's huge for us.
And it's working. That's really good news. For 15 years, until the pandemic hit, the Police Foundation presented a Citizens Academy called Inside SDPD. This live interactive morning, walking in the shoes of a police recruit, gave people a chance to understand more about what our local police do. Chief Nislight often took his time to be here to tell you why he believes this sort of community engagement program is important. He's here live today. Please welcome San Diego Chief of Police, David Nislight.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. And I want to thank you all for tuning into the premiere of the Safety for All series. One of the key things for me and for all law enforcement and the San Diego Police Department is trust and connectivity to our community. And so looking at that is one of the reasons why this series is so important to us, is that allows us to stay connected to the community. But it also, as Sarah was mentioning, the Inside San Diego PD, due to the pandemic, we've lost that ability to bring in community members to see what it's like to be a San Diego police officer. Not only to see how we do our job, but to explain the how we do our job and explain the why, how we go about our job might pertain to a particular law, a policy, or a training engram of why the officers react how they do in certain situations. So as I said, really it's about connectivity, it's about building trust with our community, and so that's why this series is so important to us. And then on top of that, we talk about this past year. As we all know, we've been working now through a pandemic for a full year now, and it makes it even more harder, or I should say more difficult, to stay connected with the community. And obviously we are trying to build the greatest police department that we can. And as Sergeant Sue was talking with Sarah, it really starts about bringing on great young people. And so that's why we talked about how we go about recruiting, why it's important to stay connected, and really kind of introduce you to both Brittany and Ralston Comptons, two fantastic folks that have joined the San Diego Police Department. And you're probably asking yourself, who would want to do this job during this time, right? Obviously, it's a very difficult time to be in law enforcement. It's a very difficult time to do this job, period, right now. But as Jason was just saying, we've actually seen a slight uptick in the qualified applicants that are applying, much like Brittany and Ralston that you just met virtually. And so when I look at those two, you look at very bright, very intelligent, two young, a young man and a young woman who really want to go out and serve the community. They want to give back to the community. And when I, as the chief of police, really look at who we want to bring onto this police department, they really exemplify the traits that we're looking for. It's that service. It's that wanting to be something bigger than themselves. It's about giving back to the community. And you saw both of them. One was a former medic, one was a former teacher, and now they're coming into the police department. So I just want to tell you, you're in great hands as we continue to build this police department with a goal of future leaders, and Brittany and Ralston are a prime example of that. And this premiere series is also a prime example of how we're trying to stay connected. I just want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time out of your busy day to joining us virtually onto this program.
And thank you, Chief. I know I speak for our whole audience. We so appreciate your leadership, heart, and service. You are a great example of the strength, character, and compassion required of a peace officer. And now joining us again is my co-host, Sergeant Sue. Jason, in addition to character and compassion, there's a very physical aspect of the application process. Why is that?
Well, the reason why we have that is because the academy is very, very physically demanding. So we just want to make sure that we're hiring recruits that will be able to maintain that level of fitness and succeed in the academy.
And what do you remember about the PAT, or physical abilities training?
Well, I remember just being exhausted after the obstacle course. The lactic acid burn in my legs was definitely something I can't forget. But honestly, the biggest thing would be the recruiting officer. It was Officer Steve Marklin at the time. And I just remember him being so energetic, so encouraging. It was probably 6 o'clock in the morning when I was there, but he just pumped everyone up. So that really set this department apart from the other agencies I applied to.
Awesome. Now we're going to see what that PAT course looks like. Take a look.
Today we are at our Tactical Training Center, and this is where we have our academies currently attend during the academy, and where we also have our physical abilities tests. As police officers, we need to be physically fit, and so what we want to do is we want to test people's ability. There's a course that endures stairs, has monkey bars that you have to get across, has a 3-foot, a 4-foot, 6-foot wall. You have to drag a dummy, a 150-pound dummy, to simulate dragging your partner that might be down. And this is all simulating a foot pursuit. And you have to be successfully completed this within 3 minutes and 15 seconds. And again, this is part of our application process in the early stages.
There's 4 flights of stairs. By then, the lactic acid is all kind of built up in your legs. So this is when the part start getting fun. And this is the, the money maker right here. If you're gonna pass or not, it's a 6-foot wall. So I think everybody passed that with no problem. So that's really fun. Now you're just trying to beat your last score.
We deal with that all day. That'll make it authentic.
We do hold what's called our PAT practice twice a week, so that's for our physical abilities test. And anybody is welcome to come on out, and we can try and show you the traits to be successful in completing the PAT course. Also, what we're now starting is a camp program. And what this is it's traditionally been people in our background process. And anybody who passes our polygraph then is eligible to participate. And now what we've done is once a month, we're starting to open this up to anybody within the public. That they can come and see some insight as to what we do to set you up for success. We're trying to prepare you both mentally and physically for what's to come within the police academy.
1, 2, 3, go to camp.
You saw the beautiful scenery behind the recruits in that last video, and of course I'm sure that's helpful to SDPD in attracting people from all over. We live in California, known for decades as a place of innovation and discovery. At the Police Foundation, we've observed that SDPD is a step ahead, not only in fighting crime, but also in adopting best practices in policing. Is there something about SDPD's recruitment practices that bears this out, Jason?
I think we've touched on it several times. Camp is just instrumental to the success for our recruits. The recruiters and background detectives, we attend the first day of the academy for each academy, and we can see the big difference between those who regularly attend camp and those who don't. They're just much more prepared and much more confident during those first couple of days. Secondly, the background detectives, they just do an awesome job. So we set up a survey at orientation prior to each academy start date. And time again, the theme is how great these background detectives are. They always talk about their professionalism and their great communication. So I think those are 2 things that work hand in hand that make, SDPD's practices that much better.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sergeant Sue, for sharing your insights and experiences with us today in this session. We so appreciate you being here and all that you do.
Thank you.
I hope this virtual visit with SDPD has been informative and entertaining to you. Perhaps you were even surprised by something you heard or wished we had shared more. You can tell us all about that in our post-session survey. Please do that. It's only 7 questions, and it will take you less than 3 minutes of your time. Yet it will help us make this session and our Safety for All series more meaningful to future audiences. Safety is a basic human need. We all crave it for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. Yet most of the time it is something we take for granted until it's threatened. My hope is that coming out of this pandemic year that has threatened both our health and safety, we all come together to ensure safety for all. If you enjoyed this program and would like to support our work, please visit our website on screen. You can also find a clickable link in the chat feature. A gift of any size is warmly welcomed. California's post requires 664 hours of training for police recruits. SDPD's Academy provides over 900 hours. Join us on April 28th at 11 a.m. to see what they learn. Again, I thank Sergeant Jason Sue for co-hosting today. If you know someone who would like to learn more about joining SDPD, whether as a police recruit or the civilian jobs like dispatcher, please visit the site now showing on your screen. We're grateful to all our sponsors and each of you who donated for making this possible. For all of you who tuned in, thank you for joining us.